After the killing of George Floyd, there have been protests across the world. Statues have been brought down. Recently, there has been yet another killing in Atlanta. Ambassador Fabian, what are your thoughts on all this?
Thank you for the question. Now, my thoughts. I am worried, deeply worried on the one hand, but on the other, I am glad that these protests have taken place and the people are standing up. A little bit of history might help. In 1776, in the American Declaration of Independence, we read about the unalienable rights of all men created equal by their Creator. These rights include the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. As we all know, all men, the phrase, does not include women. But as a matter of fact, all men did not include the black. We had the Civil War, 1861, 1865, at the horrendous cost of 620,000 lives. President Lincoln was there. He was assassinated. And in 1870, we had the 15th Amendment, which gave the black Americans the right to vote. But that didn't happen. Obstacles were put by the state and at other levels. And we had to wait till 1965, the Voting Rights Act, for the black to vote. Now, it's not enough to have the right to vote. Everyone has a right to be treated equal before the law. Now, we come across the law often when we come across the policeman. The state has a monopoly of violence, but that monopoly has to be used with judgment, with discretion, not in an impulsive manner, not in a cruel manner, not in a racist manner. Now, what happened with George Floyd is that because he was black, a white policeman thought that he could kill him in broad daylight, in public. And as you said, yet another killing has taken place in Atlanta. Now, coming to the protests across the United States and across the whole world, in all the continents, now that shows humanity's conscience has woken up. Now, I just want to make one or two points more. One is that, as you said, statues have been brought down. We all read about the statue of Colston in Bristol. He was a slave trader. He made a lot of money from that. And it was right that his statue should be brought down. But I'm not sure whether the manner in which it was brought down is the right manner. I would have preferred if the appropriate authority, the city council or another authority, passed a resolution and the statue was moved to the museum, because don't forget, it is all part of history. Now, another thing is that we have seen reports about violence or threat of violence against the statues of Winston Churchill, Mahatma Gandhi in the UK, and somebody has raised the question about the statue of George Washington. After all, he had slaves. Now, this is the wrong approach. A man's life should be looked at in its totality, not from a single aspect. So that is why I said that the protests have been, to an extent, hijacked by people with other interests. So the protesters have to think through holistically. Now, there has been some talk about defunding the police. Well, there is some confusion of thought there. We can't stop funding the police. We need the police for law and order. The police is necessary, but the police is not sufficient for law and order. After all, we also need social harmony. When there is a lack of social harmony, there can be law and order problems. Now, we have to fund all those who work for social harmony, like counselors, doctors, teachers, and other social activists. So it would make sense to take some money away from the police and allocate them to those who work for social harmony. And let me make this point. The recruitment of the police in the United States is faulty. These police men and women should be recruited after a thorough investigation into their mindset. Do they understand racial justice? Do they believe that all citizens are equal? How will they behave in an emergency? So there has to be psychological vetting of those who are recruited into the police forces. To conclude, I am so glad to see the vigorous protests taking across the globe. And let us hope that those who are in positions of authority will act with responsibility. And I'm sorry to say that the person in the White House has not yet done that, but let us hope that he will do that sooner than later. Thank you so much for listening to me.